You probably think being smart should be an advantage. From the moment you were a child, you were told you had potential, that you were different. You picked up ideas faster than the others. You saw patterns no one else noticed. You could dissect problems, anticipate outcomes, and talk circles around most people in the room. Everyone assumed this was your destiny. You would be successful. You would rise above. You would achieve things most people couldn't even imagine. But here you are, stuck, watching your potential gather dust while you rationalize, procrastinate, and explain to yourself over and over why you're not where you want to be. And if you're honest, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because the truth no one dares to say out loud is that intelligence, when left unchecked, can become a prison. A hidden curse disguised as a gift. You see, when you're intelligent, you have an extraordinary ability to spin narratives. You can justify almost anything to yourself. You can tell yourself that you're waiting for the right moment, that you're still gathering information, that you're refining your ideas, that you're being cautious, strategic, patient. It sounds reasonable. It sounds wise. It sounds like exactly what a smart person would do. But Machiavelli saw through this centuries ago. He understood that the world doesn't reward those who wait forever. He wrote that fortune is a woman, and to master her, you must be bold, decisive, willing to seize the moment before it slips through your fingers. But clever people like you, tend to believe that sheer understanding will be enough. That if you can think better, learn faster, know more, eventually you'll be so prepared that no risk will remain. This is the fantasy. That one day you will arrive at a place where action feels perfectly safe, where all variables are accounted for, where no uncertainty remains. But that place doesn't exist, and while you wait for it, life keeps moving. Other people, often less intelligent, often less prepared, overtake you simply because they are willing to act while you are still thinking. And so your intelligence becomes a kind of elegant paralysis. You wrap yourself in complexity, in nuance, in endless self-analysis, believing you are being responsible when really you are just hiding. And the longer you stay in this place, the deeper the trap becomes. Because every day you don't act, your fear grows. Every opportunity you watch pass by makes you more convinced you're not ready. Until eventually, the very thing that was supposed to set you apart becomes the reason you fall behind. This is the hidden curse of intelligence. Not that you aren't capable, but that you are so capable of explaining away your own inaction, you don't even notice when you've slipped into self-sabotage. And if you don't confront this curse, it will steal years from you. Years you will never get back. In the next part, we'll look at how your mind seduces you into believing that endless thinking is the same as progress, and why this is the most sophisticated trap you'll ever face. There's a reason smart people drift so easily into inaction. It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you lack ambition. It's because overthinking feels safe. It feels productive. It feels like you're doing something important. Like you're building a foundation no one else is disciplined enough to build. And on the surface, that belief seems rational. After all, what's wrong with wanting to be prepared? What's wrong with wanting to understand every angle before you take a risk? Nothing, if it ever leads to movement. But that's not what happens for most intelligent people. Instead, overthinking becomes a ritual. You wake up, And before you even take the first step toward your goals, your mind is already 10 steps ahead, imagining everything that could go wrong. So you start refining your plans, then refining your refinements, then questioning whether you should even be pursuing this path in the first place. And you tell yourself, this is discipline, this is wisdom, this is what sets you apart from the reckless masses who leap before they look. But if you look closer, you'll see it's something else entirely. It's avoidance. Because thinking is comfortable in a way that action never is. Thinking doesn't expose you to criticism. It doesn't risk your reputation. It doesn't confront you with the possibility that you might not be as talented or capable as you believe. Thinking is safe because it happens entirely inside your head. And as long as you stay there, you can keep the illusion alive, the fantasy that you are only one more insight away from becoming unstoppable. But Machiavelli understood that power is never born in thought alone. He wrote that fortune rewards the bold because boldness breaks the paralysis that keeps ordinary people trapped in mediocrity. Boldness is the bridge between ambition and reality. And while your mind whispers that you're being responsible, that you're simply waiting for the right moment, that you're too intelligent to rush, the world doesn't care. The world rewards those who move, those who risk, those who are willing to look foolish, to fail publicly, to act before they feel fully prepared. Because action, even imperfect action, creates momentum. It forges clarity. It gives you feedback you could never get by thinking alone. But overthinking is seductive because it mimics all those feelings without requiring any of the risk. It's like spinning in place on a treadmill and convincing yourself you're crossing continents. And the longer you stay in this loop, the more your mind will insist that you're almost ready. Just one more book, one more podcast, one more plan, and then you'll finally act. But you won't. Because thinking is an endless well. It never runs dry. And every drop you drink makes you thirstier for the illusion of certainty you'll never find. This is why so many intelligent people live their entire lives preparing for a moment that never arrives. They believe their minds will save them. But in reality, their minds are the very thing holding them hostage. In the next part, we'll explore Machiavelli's law of action and why he believed that decisive movement, not intelligence, is the force that bends reality in your favor. Niccolò Machiavelli was not impressed by clever words or lofty theories. He didn't romanticize the intellect. He didn't confuse knowledge with power. He understood something most modern minds have forgotten. Action changes everything. Action is the force that bends circumstances to your will, and no amount of intelligence can substitute for it. In his writings, Machiavelli described fortune as a woman, wild, unpredictable, resistant to those who hesitate. She yields only to those who approach her with boldness. Hesitation, he warned, was the fastest path to ruin. Because while you stand still, calculating and second-guessing, someone with half your intelligence is already taking ground. Someone who doesn't overthink, who doesn't need perfect conditions, who simply moves. And that movement creates momentum. It creates leverage. It creates a presence in the world that thinking alone can never generate. This is Machiavelli's law of action. Power belongs to the person willing to act when everyone else is still waiting. This is why you see people with less talent, less intelligence, and less potential achieve things you can barely imagine. They don't waste their energy trying to predict every variable. They understand that clarity is earned in motion, not in contemplation. When you act, you learn what works and what doesn't. You discover your limits, your strengths, your blind spots. You become someone who shapes reality instead of waiting for reality to align with your plans. But when you refuse to act, when you stay locked in thought, you deny yourself that transformation. You remain a theorist in your own life, an observer watching from behind the glass while others build, create, and fail their way forward. And the most dangerous part? Because you're intelligent, you can always explain your inaction in a way that sounds noble. You can convince yourself you're refining your strategy, that you're too wise to be impulsive, that you're respecting the complexity of your goals. But Machiavelli would have seen this for what it is: a shield for your fear, a sophisticated disguise for your unwillingness to expose yourself to risk. He wrote that in matters of power, it is better to be decisive and occasionally wrong than cautious and perpetually inert. Because fortune does not wait for you to feel ready. It does not pause while you gather more data. It does not care how clever your reasons sound. It rewards the person who steps into uncertainty and makes something happen. Even if that something is imperfect, even if it means failing publicly. Because in that movement, you become more formidable than any amount of thinking can make you. You stop being someone who only dreams and start becoming someone who executes, someone who makes an impact, someone who leaves a mark. And that is why the law of action is the dividing line between those who stay stuck and those who rise. In the next part, we're going to look at the ego's hidden need to appear perfect and why this invisible craving keeps so many intelligent people frozen in place. If you really look beneath the surface of your inaction, you'll find something deeper than overthinking, something more primal than fear of failure. You'll find the ego, the part of you that needs to look competent, unshakable, impressive, the part that dreads the humiliation of being seen trying and failing. Most intelligent people don't realize this is what's running their lives. On the outside, you tell yourself you're refining your plans. You convince yourself you're waiting for the right moment. But if you strip away every layer of rationalization, the truth is far simpler. You don't want to look foolish. Because somewhere along the way, you built your identity around being the smart one, the capable one, the person who always knows what they're doing. And so the idea of stumbling, of getting it wrong in public, of not living up to the image you've cultivated, it feels unbearable. Your mind would rather protect that image than risk the reality that you might be imperfect. This is why your plans keep expanding in complexity, why your deadlines keep slipping, why you keep telling yourself that tomorrow you'll finally be ready. It isn't about preparation. It's about preservation, preserving the illusion of competence, preserving the fantasy that when you eventually act, you'll do it flawlessly. Machiavelli understood this tendency better than most. He saw that the desire to appear perfect is one of the greatest obstacles to genuine power. Because perfection is unattainable, and the more you chase it, the more you guarantee that you will never move. In his writings, he described how rulers who obsessed over appearing virtuous and flawless inevitably became weak. Because in their fear of making mistakes, they lost their capacity for decisive action. They became so concerned with appearances that they surrendered the very substance of their authority. And the same is true for you. the more you cling to the need to look intelligent, the more you cripple your ability to create anything meaningful. Because real progress is messy, it's public, it's filled with false starts, dead ends, and moments when you look like you don't know what you're doing. But in that vulnerability, you grow. In that imperfection, you gather the experience and resilience that no amount of theorizing can provide. You stop living for the admiration of others and start building something that has weight, something that can stand on its own. And here's the irony. The respect you're chasing by trying to appear perfect, it only comes when you prove you're willing to act without it. When you step into uncertainty and own your mistakes, you become someone others can't ignore. Someone whose competence is earned, not performed. So if you feel stuck, if you keep circling the same plans and hesitating at the edge of action, ask yourself, is this really about readiness? Or is it about protecting an image you're terrified to let go of? Because that image, the one that feels so safe, is the very thing that's keeping you weak. In the next part, we're going to talk about the one shift that breaks this pattern, and how embracing imperfection is the doorway to everything you claim to want. You've heard countless ideas about self-improvement. You've read books, watched videos, listened to podcasts, every one of them promising to help you overcome procrastination, fear, or self-doubt. But here's what almost none of them tell you. You don't need more information. You don't need more strategies. You don't need another productivity system or another technique to optimize your schedule. What you need is a shift so simple that your mind will try to dismiss it as obvious. And yet, it's the only thing that has ever worked for anyone who wanted to move from paralysis to power. You have to accept imperfection, because the truth is, your life will never be neat. You will never have absolute clarity. You will never feel fully prepared. And the belief that you must is the lie that keeps you stuck. Intelligent people are especially vulnerable to this illusion, because you've trained yourself to analyze, to plan, to refine, and in many areas of life, that skill has served you well. But when it comes to action, when it comes to building something that matters, perfection is the enemy. Perfection is the voice that whispers, "Not yet," "Not good enough," "Not ready." It's the voice that seduces you into waiting, until one day you look back and realize you've waited your whole life. Machiavelli wrote that fortune does not wait for the perfect strategist. It bends to the one who dares to seize it, flawed, uncertain, and human. This is the shift. You must decide that imperfect action is better than perfect hesitation. You must decide that looking unpolished is worth it if it means you're moving. That failure is acceptable. That embarrassment is survivable. Because in that decision, you take back the power you've surrendered to your fear of being seen as anything less than exceptional. Here's what this looks like in practice. It means launching the project before you feel ready. It means making the call, sending the email, showing up, without waiting for the perfect words. It means choosing progress over pride. And every time you act without perfect certainty, you weaken the hold your ego has over you. Every time you step forward while your mind screams for more preparation, you build a kind of quiet self-respect that no one can give you. A sense that you are finally living your life on your own terms, not on the terms dictated by your fear. Because the truth is, you will never think your way into confidence. You will never plan your way into momentum. Confidence comes from movement. Clarity comes from doing. And the respect you're craving, both from yourself and from the world, comes only when you decide to act in spite of your doubt. This is the shift that breaks the pattern. You stop treating readiness as a requirement. You start treating it as a bonus. And when you live this way, you'll discover that the power you've been searching for wasn't hidden in some secret strategy. It was always waiting on the other side of your willingness to be imperfect. In the final part, I'm going to give you a direct challenge, a simple invitation to prove to yourself that you're capable of more than thinking and planning, that you're capable of acting. You've spent your life believing that intelligence would be your greatest asset, and in many ways, it has been. It's helped you see further, understand faster, solve problems others couldn't even identify. But intelligence alone was never the goal. It was only supposed to be a tool, a means to create, to act, to build something real in the world. Yet somewhere along the way, that tool became a prison, a comfortable cell built from perfect plans and endless preparation. And if you're honest, you know it's cost you more than you've ever admitted. The opportunities you let pass because you were waiting to feel ready. The projects you abandoned because you couldn't guarantee they would succeed. The relationships you never pursued because you feared you'd fall short of the image you'd created for yourself. All of it sacrificed to preserve the illusion of competence. But here's the truth you need to hear. Your life will not change because you understand this. It will not change because you agree with it. It will only change when you prove to yourself that you are willing to move, even when your mind tells you to wait. That is the final challenge. Not to gather more information, not to create a more sophisticated strategy, but to act, to do the thing you've been avoiding, not because you're ready, but because you finally decided that readiness is a lie. So here's my invitation to you. Pick one action you've been postponing, one thing you know would move your life forward if you stopped overthinking and simply did it. It doesn't matter if it's small. It doesn't matter if it feels insignificant. What matters is that you choose it, and you do it today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because the gap between who you are and who you could be is not measured in knowledge. It's measured in unexecuted actions, in all the tiny, decisive moments when you chose comfort over courage. And you have a chance right now to choose differently, to step out of the fortress of your intellect and into the uncertainty where real growth happens. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold, not the perfect, not the endlessly prepared, the bold, those willing to look imperfect in pursuit of something meaningful. So ask yourself, are you willing to be that person? Or will you spend the next year, 5 years, 10 years, watching your potential decay while you tell yourself the same stories about why you can't act yet? You don't have to answer out loud. Your actions will answer for you. And if you do nothing, that's your answer too. But if you're ready to prove to yourself that you are more than just a clever mind, if you're ready to step into the part of you that doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful, then this is your moment. Close this video. Pick the one thing you've been avoiding and move, because your intelligence has given you a gift. But only your courage can turn that gift into something real. This is where your life begins to change. Not in theory, but in action. I'll see you there.